at the core of all of us, what is it other than love? I think a lot of the things that we're looking for, even they're just counterfeits to love. Money, counterfeit to love. Fame, counterfeit to love. Sex, counterfeit to love, right? But at the core of all of these addictive types of behaviors, even what we really are lacking is that love. And we will sell our very souls for that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flourish Podcast. My name's Abe Brown and I'm here with a friend, but also a man I have a lot of respect for, Levi Washington. I'm so excited to tell you a little bit about him and then of course let him tell you about himself. So welcome, Levi.
Thank you, Abe. I'm honored to be here.
Hey, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I actually had a really great morning. Didn't have to head into work this morning. Took the day off just to make some time to come up with some things that'll keep me interesting for more than 15 minutes here.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I like the fact that we're both in black today. It seems to be the color.
Yeah.
The color for these podcast episodes. But Levi is really interesting to me. Obviously, you can tell he's a young man, a good-looking guy. But really, when you check out his social media, and I hope you'll do that, and we'll tell you about that a bit later, is really pretty passionate about a lot of issues that are affecting people today. He's a writer. He's a poet. He's a published author. So, he's written a book, and I'm understanding you're working on your second one, right?
I am.
But he's also in business. He manages teams. He works hard. He's in the daily grind, probably just like you are too. And so I think it's awesome that we have a chance to learn from Levi, to hear a little bit about what he's up to. And so tell us about you, Levi. Tell us maybe a little bit about your journey, your story.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. As you said, I am a writer. And so naturally, I'm a lot more confident behind a piece of paper and a pen.
Yeah.
I have a lot more control over the conversation that way.
Right.
And so this is quite a vulnerable place for me to be, and I'm honored to be here. And
nice.
I would say my story, we could talk about how I was born in Prince George, small town, and cool. I moved around a lot as a kid, and I never really had a chance to learn how to set down roots or maintain long-term friendships. There's a lot of different things that have got me to where I am today, but I would say the biggest thing would be when I got into sports. Mm-hmm. Sports kind of became the way that I found more identity and validation and attention, as those are things that we are all desiring.
Yep.
And through that, I kind of set aside my more creative side, my desire for music and writing, all these things that I really, really loved growing up, to pursue what I thought it would mean to be a man in the modern world.
Athletics.
And, athletics and women and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And what I found is no matter what I was taking from the world, it was never enough to fill my cup, because no external source fulfills that internal leak.
Right.
And it wasn't until I figured out what I had to give to the world that I started to find some more fulfillment. And that started with getting into personal training, trying to help people with their bodies. And what I really found was, as much as people come into the gym to work on their bodies, I was more interested in the inner workings that got them into the gym in the first place.
Right.
And that's what I started to explore even in my own heart and myself, and started writing poetry and started creating content. And I've just been riding that wave right in through your front door here.
Right on, man. Love that. And so small town guy, trying to figure himself out, naturally, naturally inclined to arts and creativity, but then kind of felt a little bit of a pull to establish manhood with athletics and women and that's all understandable. How would you give advice to young men who feel more creative? Because if I can be honest, I think a lot of guys either feel like I'm just going to say it like it is, and it's horrible to say it this way, but they feel like, well, I either have to be gay to be creative, like literally. I've had probably a dozen guys say that to me, or I have to sort of be somewhat different than what I am to be socially acceptable. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's completely nonsensical. But I also understand, because there is this societal pressure to show that you're a man through strength or through accomplishment in relationships or what have you. And you're a writer. I mean, you're a poet. You're also a big guy. You're a well-built guy. So obviously, maleness is not an issue for you, but how do you help guys navigate that tension? You know, because I think it's really important. I think there's a lot of creative guys who feel like they have to almost dumb themselves down or look less creative than they are because they don't want maybe somebody to make fun of them or put them down. So what do you think?
It's a really interesting observation. You know, I really felt myself resonating with a lot of those feelings that you were voicing there. And that is an area that I'd like to work myself more into, as it has been a big struggle for me, what it means to be a man. But what I've really come down to understand is, you know, there's a cliche, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Right on.
Right. And I've found as I've learned to become more articulate, as I've become a stronger communicator, it's made me far more effective in my relationships and in every area of my life. And, you know, that's a very powerful thing to be. It's
absolutely.
It's not just about like, there's a level of power that comes with the ability to express yourself vulnerably.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too, because there's nothing inherently like masculine or feminine about creativity, but sometimes these societal perceptions cause people to sort of label it that way. And I love what you said. I mean, a great writer is a great thinker. And there's nothing more powerful than a great thinker. True. You know, learning to write, I mean, what it did for me is it forced me to actually think and clarify my thoughts, right? Take this mess of just randomness and force it through a pen onto a piece of paper. Right. And sure, at first, it's just this sort of stream of consciousness, but pretty soon it actually starts to be shaped into something that actually makes sense, right? Yeah. So tell us about your writing. Like, I think this is really cool. Like, so you're drawn to poetry. Is that the only type of writing that you do, or you that's the one that you love the most?
First of all, I really want to say, like, I really like the visual of, you know how a laser, it's like hyper focused.
Yeah.
It's almost what the pen becomes. It becomes that laser for your thoughts. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I was drawn to poetry, I think, mostly because it allowed me to speak through metaphor.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how my mind, like, and then I can say things without really saying them.
Okay.
So I felt a bit safer that way. If I can talk about a tree or a blade of grass, it's not really about me per se. And I can put it down in this artistic form, so then people can kind of take their own interpretation of it. So it's not me signing my name to these things that possibly could be a little bit more vulnerable. So
right.
That's kind of, I think, poetry, and it's more fun for my mind. So yeah, I'm definitely drawn more towards poetry, but I also really enjoy writing down my perspectives on different, I think I'm drawn a lot more to relationships as well, dynamics between human beings, why we are the way we are, why we think the way we think, and what is it that we really want when we get into conversation and relationship with people.
That's awesome. And so your first book, and I have a copy, you gave it to me, and I'm really grateful for that, but it is about relationships, right? Yeah. So tell us about your first book, what the title is, what it's all about, what was in your heart as you were going through that.
So it's called Love Isn't.
Okay.
And the N and the T are crossed off on the end because when you kind of remove what love is not, you're left with what love is.
Love that.
And I think that can be a really great place for a lot of us to start, because maybe we didn't really know what love is, and it's kind of hard to figure out what that is. So maybe I can figure out what are a few things in my life that love is not.
Right on.
We can all find some of those things, whether in our own actions or within the actions that we are allowing from other people. And if I remove some of those things, it might bring me closer to what love is. And that's kind of how that book was formulated. It was a lot of my experiences with codependent relationships and cheating and being cheated on and all of those kind of like darker things, and how do I bring them together and voice them through poetry. And then I started thinking about how poetry can kind of leave us in a feeling sometimes. But what is the meaning? How do I apply that feeling? And so I had this idea to write the poem, but then also include a perspective on what that poem meant in my life and my perspective. And every page is like poem and then perspective, poem and perspective. And I was originally going to call it Poems and Perspectives,
right? But
I found Love Isn't was a bit deeper. So
yeah, boy, that's awesome. And what kind of conversations has that stimulated for you?
a lot.
Yeah, I can only imagine, right?
Yeah, as soon as I started posting some of those things, people really started to gravitate towards me, like I had all of these answers that I didn't really have. Like this was just an exploration of my questions.
Right.
And then people kind of start coming to you with their questions, and then I start answering some questions. And that's what kind of got me into life coaching. And that's, more or less where I came into contact with you as well. So it's all been very serendipitous.
And that's so cool. And I think it takes a lot of bravery to do that. Like, I think that people throw the term codependency around a lot. And like so many things, we label it, we sort of do that to almost take the power out of it. But when I think about codependency, I actually feel really bad for both sides of that relationship, because really you're looking at two people, and I don't want to use the term cheaply, they're broken. But obviously, whether they're broken or not, there's a tremendous amount of emotional need there. And whenever you're needy, you're vulnerable. Like it doesn't matter if you're just thirsty, right? I could come to you, there's that Bible story of Esau literally selling his birthright for a bowl of soup. Like if I was thirsty enough, I would buy off of you a glass of water and, here's my whole phone for just that glass of water, right? And when you think about like, we are so profoundly wired to need love, and not just sex and not just affirmation, but actual genuine love, right? So we're all kind of needy.
Yeah.
But there's a level of neediness that now it's like, man, I'm like dependent, like I need you rather than I need love. Yeah. And that I think is a tricky balance. So what do you think about that?
I think that is, you said that beautifully. Yeah, and at the core of all of us, what is it other than love? I think a lot of the things that we're looking for, even they're just counterfeits to love.
Yes.
Money, counterfeit to love.
Yeah.
Fame, counterfeit to love.
Yeah.
Sex, counterfeit to love.
Yeah.
Right. But at the core of all of these addictive types of behaviors, even what we really are lacking is that love. And we will sell our very souls for that.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to grab my karaoke mic and sing, I want to know what love is. You know what I mean? I want to know what love is, you know what I mean? But that's like the cry of the heart, It's like, man, like all these cheap substitutes are out there and all of these things that promise to satisfy us. And then we get them and we find it actually doesn't really do it for you, right? Yeah. So tell us about book 2. What you working on now?
Book number 2. I haven't gone public with the title of it, but I've got the title, I've got the cover. It's cool. It's coming together very beautifully. And
love it.
The second one is really about what happens after that.
Okay.
Once I've gotten away from all these toxic patterns that have defined who I am for so long, who am I once I've broken free from that? Who am I now after the breakups? After I want to change, now I have this blank canvas and I'm looking at it like, what do I do?
Right.
Who am I now? I've been told who I am my whole life by all of these broken patterns. Who am I going to choose to be? Right. So there's like that gray area, and this next book is an exploration of that existential crisis that you kind of have of identity there.
That's so good. And I love how it's an exploration, because I'm not sure that you just find it, in one moment.
Absolutely not.
It's like you kind of piece it together, right? Yeah. So what, I think that I'll ask you this, not because I want you to feel the obligation to act like an expert. I think it's just more so because you're paying attention to these things, maybe more than the average person. And then you're also paying attention, from what I can tell on your social media, to what's out there. And that's a good thing, because, we can't help people if we don't understand them. And I know your heart is to help people. So what are you noticing out there right now with relationships, and particularly with men and women, romance, that kind of a thing? What's going on?
You know what? I was actually thinking about this. I've not said this that publicly before, and I don't really know if I can express it in the way that I want to, but I was thinking about this the other day, where I was actually reading in Proverbs. So that's like, I've been really interested in reading through the book of Proverbs.
Cool.
I've really found that a lot of this, my bookshelf has so many self-help books.
Right.
So I have more than I've read.
Yeah.
And they can all be kind of found in the book of Proverbs.
Absolutely.
I really do find that.
Very cool.
But there's 2 things that wisdom warns against. And these 2 things were promiscuous, adulterous women.
Right.
And perverse men.
Okay.
And right? as genders as that may be, that's a conversation that I think a lot of people feel like they have to tread lightly around. But what are the two things that I find that are being glorified the most with men online?
Yeah.
Perverse men.
Right. And
glorified the most in women online.
Yeah.
Adulterous, promiscuous women. And those are the kind of like the pinnacles of what masculinity should be and femininity should be. But really those are like the antithesis of what wisdom is.
Yes.
And that's something that I find is kind of interesting. What is it that we are glorifying? What is it that we think is cool? Because we can't really fight what cool is. And that's kind of my kind of conundrum that I've come across when it comes to this men versus women thing. It's what are we defining as what is desirable in women and what is desirable in men?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're really right to frame it using the language of wisdom, because I think when I mean, one of the things I've noticed is when you use sort of moral language, right and wrong, whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't matter, because now you're engaging the defensive part of somebody, right? And yet when we use the language of wisdom, it's just really, is this thing serving you? You know, we all have patterns in our behavior. And if you're that perverse man, I guess the question is really, is that ultimately serving you? And if it's hurting everyone else around you, I can promise you it's not serving you, right? But if you don't see that, then you're going to perpetuate that pattern. And boy, there's a lot of wisdom in having those kinds of conversations, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that, you know, people's mental health right now is overall improving because of the quality of their relationships, or would you say that there's some challenges there?
Challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's at an all-time, well, I can't really say I've not experienced that many lifetimes. So.
Right. Yes, that's right.
But I don't think we're in a really great place for mental health, as far as I think we're very isolated. I think community and connection is what we truly desire and truly need for mental health.
Yeah.
And the more society has progressed towards social media and living vicariously through all these means that kind of keep us disconnected, I think we're more disconnected than we've ever really been, and that's not been good for our mental health. So no, I think it's not been good, and something needs to change, because it's not going in a positive direction in my observation.
Yeah. So what is maybe one or two pieces of advice that you could offer to help people truly flourish or thrive in relationships, be they friendships or business relationships, romantic, whatever it might be?
I would really say community and communication. Mm-hmm. And I think they're very intertwined. The better you are able to communicate who you are with yourself, you're going to actually be able to engage in community better that way. And that's kind of, you know, why I love writing and the power of writing. If I can become a better communicator, I can also be more proficient in community with people.
Right.
But don't shy away from seeking out community, whatever your things that you enjoy doing. Like something that I'm exploring right now is I'm getting into jiu-jitsu at a more committed, competitive level. Nice. And I've been feeling so much more connected, even just getting out there and doing these things. So if you love photography, get into a photography class. If you love art, get into an art class, get yourself around like-minded people, get connected, gain community. And I think that is where so much mental health, bettering your mental health comes in.
Love that. Communication and community. Boy, you can take those to the bank. And those are lifetime journeys, right? To really figure those out. Like, how do I communicate? How do I build community? How do I add to community? How do I strengthen community? So what's the ETA for book number 2? Is it 2024 or you thinking 2025? What's the rough timeline?
I want to put it out this year.
Okay.
I have really shied away from timelines.
Yes. You're busy.
Not even just that, man. Like my ego gets involved, and I don't like feeling pressured by time. But this year, what I'm working on is I'm actually trying to put actual specific goals and timelines in place, because I know I can do more, but I shy away from it because once I complete this, what's on the other side of that? Yeah. There's a fear of failure, but also the fear of what comes with success, more responsibility.
Yeah.
And there's that quote, with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
But I don't think we have that right, because I think with more power comes an opportunity for responsibility.
Yeah, fair enough.
But do we all really want more responsibility? Yeah. We all want more power, but do we really want more responsibility?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where I've been struggling with myself. What does it really mean for me to actually pursue and success in a way that I actually put 100% in and not rest on my laurels.
Love that. So, folks, thank you for tuning in. Levi's pretty active on social media, a couple of platforms. And honestly, I watch probably most of his stuff there, his videos. And I think a lot of it, there's a lot of wisdom there. So what are the best channels for someone to follow you and connect with what you're up to?
Thank you, Abe. That's
absolutely
gassing me up right now, and I don't really know what to do with it. But yeah, no, I've been actually pursuing a little bit more over onto YouTube, as I think that that's a stronger platform, even for this idea with communication and community. I can actually engage more with people and have longer conversations in the comments and stuff. Yeah. I really blew up on TikTok, but that seems a little bit more surface, superficial, like quick fix kind of content. Yeah. So, but yeah, you can find me on TikTok. You can find me on YouTube, and on Instagram as well. So I'm on everything. You just type in my name, you'll find me. So Levi, so Levi. Yeah. And then Washington, like the state or the city, Washington, D.C. And he is actually easy to find, but you can have a look at him here. And when you do find him, it's actually interesting to see, he doesn't seem to have a lot of fear about delving into some of the tougher sort of relationship issues today. And I just think that that's important. It's not that one person is going to say everything that you agree with, but, can they get you to think a little bit? Can they get you to reflect? Is there an opportunity for greater self-awareness? And that's what I find from your channel. And I'm so grateful for that. So, or channels. So any final thoughts for the audience here today as we kind of bring it in for a landing? Don't put me on the spot there.
Sorry about that.
I'll give a generic piece of advice. I think that healthy relationships with other people begins with a healthy relationship with yourself.
Yeah, love that. And you know what? Just like any other relationship, you got to kind of treat yourself with respect and listen to yourself and care about what you have to say to yourself in order to build that healthy relationship. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm so grateful for our guest today, Levi Washington. Please do check him out, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and follow him and make sure you subscribe. And please do tune in for our next episode of the Flourishing Podcast. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.